As a DOT cop, I watched a trucker drive right past me, and no, I didn't stop them. In fact, there was a line of trucks coming into the detail, and I let this one truck that was in front drive by me with no issue, but I did stop the person that was right behind him. And no, this isn't because I was being nice, but it was mainly because nothing about that truck or that driver gave me a reason for me wanting to pull him over. Now, just to explain that quickly, as we all may know, DOT cops don't need some crazy wild reason in order to pull you over. You can have a headlight out, you can get pulled over. You can have bad load securement, you can get pulled over. If you are in the game and you are in the regulations, then you are inspectable. Today in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what I noticed about that truck that I let drive by and exactly why it matters way more than you think. This video, as a no-brainer, will help you out. For anybody new here, my name is Cole. I'm a state DOT cop, and I drop videos every single week to help truckers like yourself stay compliant, get compliant, stay in the know, and most of all, keep rolling. So if you don't want to miss any of that fun stuff, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. So if you want to avoid DOT interactions, this video itself is way more important than just learning about violations. Let me just be clear from the start here. Passing DOT or getting waved by DOT does not mean that you're perfect, and it does not mean that your truck is perfect. It just means you pretty much didn't trigger a heavy reason for you to be stopped, or you didn't trigger enforcement on that given day and time. Like I've talked about in the past, a lot of drivers out there think that every single inspection is completely random, and we've already established that that is not the case. Believe it or not, us as inspectors, we have a mental checklist that we go through really quickly before anyone even gets pulled over. What I'm sharing with you here right now is not opinion. It's how enforcement actually works for the most part in the real world. So you get to see both sides of things here. Or should I say, you get to see our side of things here, which will then be better for you. A lot of the things that I'm going to be explaining to you today happens before paperwork, before checking logs, before checking brakes, and anything like that. These are going to be pre-inspection indicators, and they're not opinions and they are not guesses. A lot of drivers sometimes say, well, you guys are going to find something no matter what. And how I like to put it, if there's nothing there, there's nothing to find. A broken headlight is a broken headlight. So here's what enforcement sees before you know that we're watching. Inspections don't just start when the lights come on, they start in motion. When this truck that I let pass came into the weigh station, the first thing I observed is how the truck was moving. And not the truck itself, but just how it behaved in general. The truck tracked straight in line, no drifting at all, no uneven bouncing, no sagging suspension, and it was moving at a reasonable, proper, stable speed. That matters because suspension, load balance, and braking issues show up while rolling, not always when parked. Trucks with major issues rarely hide them very well at highway speeds, and when they slow down, it's pretty much game over. With this truck that I let go by, I also looked at his braking behavior. There was no abrupt braking, there was no dragging indicators, there was no visible brake smoke or brake odor. Now that doesn't mean that that driver's brakes were perfect, but again, it doesn't raise a lot of inspectors' immediate safety antennas. The reason I bring up brakes when approaching a weigh station or scale house is because a lot of times you'll see drivers jamming their brakes every couple seconds, like abruptly, when they're coming into a scale house, and sometimes it's not being done on purpose. Some people just have brake issues. The next thing I need you to know is that this truck that I let drive by was that I paid attention to his lights and visibility. All required lights were functioning in real time. That includes all marker lights, signal lights, things were looking good. Now, if I were to see lighting inconsistencies while that truck was moving, I would not let him drive by. I would pull him aside for a conversation and potentially a DOT inspection. If you're with me so far, the reason that I let that truck drive by is 1, vehicle tracking and stability were all good. Braking behavior, brake patterns were good. Lights and visibility were right on point. So the next thing that I noticed wasn't the truck, but it was the driver. And I like to call this driver behavior. As the driver was approaching the weigh station, he had his windows down or windows cracked, one of the two, I don't remember. But as he's slowly driving by us, he was looking directly over at us to make sure if we were going to give him the thumbs up to wave through or to stop or pull over. That is really big. When you roll into a weigh station and you have inspectors outside waiting to interact with drivers, a lot of drivers, whether they do it purposely or not, they tend to up their speed, have their windows rolled up, they look straight ahead and try to fly by the inspection station. That right there, you can already tell why that's a red flag. If you are attentive when you pull into the weigh station and you're at least looking at the inspectors to see what the instructions are, you have a way higher chance of getting that wave on through than if you were to try to speed through the weigh station with your head straight ahead. That's a good way to get chased down. So when I let this driver drive on by, he looked over at me, he was driving nice and slow, his windows were down, and he waited for that head nod of approval or the wave of approval approval, should I say. This matters way more than people realize. Drivers who know that their truck is squared away, they tend to drive more normally. And I'm not saying everybody. I know some people are just nervous people even if their trucks are squared away. But in my experience, for the most part, super confident drivers are usually pretty laid back. But the drivers who know something is wrong, whether it's with their truck or their logs, they seem to telegraph it, and we notice it almost right away. How I love to put it, confidence usually comes from consistency, not luck. The first 5 seconds through the windshield. This part right here is huge, and it's another widely underestimated part. I could see directly into that driver's cab. His dash was not cluttered with trash. He didn't have items blocking his visibility, his defrosters, his windshield, everything was clear. I was standing at ground level and I could see right through his windshield. And that's not just about being neat, it's about being in control of your rig. Remember, a cluttered cab strongly correlates with disorganized paperwork, poor trip preparation, and or rushed operation. And in this truck that I let drive on by, I didn't see any of that. I know you're still with me, and if you paid attention to these things that I've told you so far, you're already in a much better position than a ton of other drivers out there on the road. So we're going to continue, so you're going to be at the best position when you're out there on the road. Now let's talk about some compliance signals that most drivers completely ignore. This driver that I let drive on by the weigh station, compliance signals were looking A-okay and on point. Their DOT numbers were visible and legible. Inspection decals were present and didn't look tattered and expired. No registration plates dangling at all. And no load securement violations from a visual standpoint. Keep in mind, this does not guarantee compliance. It simply means nothing screamed, check me now. Right now, I'm going to tell you something that matters way more than knowing all the violations in the book. Here's a truth that frustrates some drivers. Most inspections don't start because of hidden technical, hard to find violations. They pretty much start because of risk perception. When enforcement sees risk, we tend to investigate. When we don't see too much risk and too much things that are fishy, we tend to observe and move on. And that's exactly what happened here with this driver that I let drive on by. Because real life example, think about it this way. If I'm choosing to just stop any truck all day, right? If I see a completely clean truck and I just say, well, I'm just going to inspect this person just because I want to inspect them. I inspect them, I get no violations even though I'm a thorough inspector. And while I'm inspecting this person, 2, 3, 4 more trucks drive by that are visibly beat to heck and have a lot of dangerous safety violations driving on by, while I'm, so to speak, wasting my time and the driver's time with this completely clean truck. So that kind of goes hand in hand with that risk perception. A lot of inspectors, or well, I can speak for myself, I like to go after the trucks that I can visibly see these safety concerns that are right there, or I do inspections on vehicles that I can see violations on visually already before they even make a 100% stop. Let's talk about some common misconceptions. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking right now. So if I look good, then I just won't ever get inspected. Short answer to that, no. Good looking trucks still do get inspected. I've seen brand new trucks have issues straight from the factory. Another misconception. So DOT is just straight up profiling trucks. Again, I don't put it like that, no. What I mean is enforcement prioritizes what presents immediate safety risk. You can still be inspected later. You can still be inspected that random time. And remember, you can always be inspected for that paperwork check, right? That level 3 DOT inspection. But this truck, again, that I let drive on by didn't check any of those boxes at that specific moment. Just a quick story time because I know we love that on this channel. Last week, we had a box truck that was going to pick up a load of Christmas trees. They chose purposely to drive by the weigh station. We were open, we had the big flashing signs up, and they chose to purposely not pull in but stay on the interstate and keep driving. A lot of times our inspectors are super busy during details or they're underneath other trucks, but that day I had time and I was not busy in that specific moment. So what did I do? Hopped into my cruiser, turned around, jumped on the interstate, and went after and chased the guy that drove by the weigh station. Got behind him, lit him up. He pulled over to a very safe spot, which is awesome of him. And I just had a small chat with him. Collected his information, and I let him know I was going to be doing a level 3 inspection on him. During that level 3 inspection, that's where I noticed that the company was federally out of service. So the company should not have even been operating, and he was over state lines. So again, he's out of service, can't move. So I take all the paperwork back up to him, and listen to what he tells me. He says he actually doesn't really do any of the administrative work for the company. It's a family-owned business. He does not do any of the paperwork stuff, and he actually had no clue that they were federally out of service. Again, another prime example of the truck looked fine, right? It was a newer box truck, but because that one action raised suspicion, the action of him driving by the weigh station raised suspicion, I went after him, I stopped him, and boom, he's federally out of service. You see how that kind of works? So even if a vehicle is looking clean and good, things can still be wrong. There are so many trucks on the road, and we are never going to catch every single truck, but we do our best to do what we can with the resources that we have available. There have been some days where there is one drive-by, we may go chase it, there's another one, we may go chase it, then all of a sudden everybody's tied up and it's very hard to chase everything that drives by. Also keep in mind, some of the people that drive by are on a bypass system, such as Prepass or DriveWise or any other bypass system you can think of. A lot of these companies have those systems, and other drivers on the road just don't know it. So when you're a truck driver and you are waiting in line at a weigh station and you say to us, hey, why didn't you stop that guy? He just drove by and I had to pull in here. A lot of times up on our computer, we can see the ping from the bypass system. So here's a final takeaway for you. If you want fewer DOT interactions, you need to stop focusing on only what fails inspections. Start focusing on what prevents inspections from starting in the first place. To me, that's a way better spot to be in, because then it means that you're kind of ahead of the curve here. Start focusing on how your truck moves, how you behave behind the wheel, what your cab says about your operation, and whether your truck presents risk before the contact. I want to hear from you down below in the comments. Have you ever gotten that head nod of approval or that wave of approval from DOT? If so, let me know. And if not, let me know how many times in your trucking career you've ever been pulled over for inspections. Or if it's too many times to count, just comment too many times to count. If you learned anything and got value from this video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, keep rolling.